We have an update on Kenny Omega's injury status. Some AEW stars have signed contract extensions, and WWE are looking to bring in a new Mexican star. Find out all about it in a bit. So we're kicking things off with an injury update regarding Kenny Omega. The situation ongoing after his return. There's still a lot of talk that maybe he's not at 100%, but yes. According to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, it was said that it wasn't his injuries hurting him badly, although he does undergo extensive therapy multiple times a day due to very real injuries to his neck, shoulder, a hernia, and his knee. The story is he's starting back rusty and hurt and not ready, and will eventually build to being the Omega people expect. That doesn't sound like a story, that just sounds like what's happening.
That sounds just like what's happening, that someone's gone, he's fine, Dave.
He's
absolutely
right,
fine.
Dave.
Obviously.
It's just the story. He's really injured. He is really injured and requires this 3 times a day physical therapy. But it's part of the angle. It's all part of the... It's like when Sandman went blind in the 90s, you know?
Exactly. But it's... Yeah, I mean, I can... If it is a story...
Yeah.
It's very real to life, because if he, as you said, if he's having multiple therapies a day, he's going to be sore.
There are ways, though, that he can be utilized without him having to be in such, extreme circumstances where he's going to be taking very risky bumps and stuff with the way that he is healing right now. So I think that we may see a lot of Omega in a more entertainment side of things, and maybe more tags, and maybe, the occasional singles match. But it's going to be a little while before we're starting to see the barn burners come back.
We say that, and then we saw the bump that he took. Was it Dragon Lee that dove through the ropes, over the barricade, and they both landed very hard on the concrete. Now, he did have that long sleeve shirt on that made many people speculate about this, whether he was still injured or not. But apparently he's not injured, and that's just the story. But he is injured and requires therapy.
And that's also kind of the story. Keeping it with AEW now, we're going to talk about some stars who have signed contract extensions. Now, this one's coming from Fightful Select, but they've reported that the former 2.0 have signed contract extensions, and while the terms and length of their contracts have not been revealed, they originally signed a deal back in August 2021. Daddy Magic Matt Maynard has been out injured these past few weeks, so he's been regularly used on commentary, while Cool Hand Angelo Parker has been making Dynamite appearances. So currently part of the Jericho Appreciation Society. They've been seen a lot
of appreciation and praise for their own work.
People are really I think really getting behind them.
For me, them and the Acclaimed are the 2 best parts of Dynamite right now. Daddy Magic alone, when he did that promo and he was like, you know what makes Daddy Magic's nipples hard? It was like, that's incredible. Like, he is a star.
I just, WWE have to be sitting here staring at this, just head in hands.
Man, they had them.
Literally had them on the books, ready to go, willing to go, able to go.
And like, as they signed a contract extension in June 2021, and they released them 10 days later, and then AEW quickly scooped them up because they have a lot of talent themselves. I mean, it's crazy, they came in as a quote unquote enhancement talent jobber tag team, and they're now arguably in one of the biggest angles in the company. With Danielson and Garcia in Jericho Appreciation Society. They're so good.
I think we're going to see a lot more of this sort of news as well, with the hiring spree that WWE seems to be on right now. So I think we'll be reporting quite a lot on stars being, re-signed to AEW.
Please stay with us for the next few years.
Don't some freedom. But moving over to New Japan now. This one comes from the Observer as well. It's rather strange news, but it was just reported that for whatever this is worth, the talent in the company believes that Kota Ibushi is not coming back. It's then written, we haven't heard anything from the Ibushi side on this. The Ibushi situation is long and complex. It involves his injury status. It involves his work status. It involves the company not giving him personal time to handle a very intensely
there was a very personal
situation.
We've discussed it in length on previous news videos when that sort of news broke. It's a shame to hear this side of the things, that the talent are really sort of feeling he's not going to return to the company, because I think on a purely very selfish point of view, on a fan side of thing, there's so many dream matches that we want to see from Kota Ibushi, especially with the news that we reported the other day that AEW might be involved in Wrestle Kingdom this year. We would want to see Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega get in the ring again.
This is it. I don't know, because it's more for me. I'm looking at this like, how have New Japan fallen like this if this ends this way? Because up until about 3, 4, 5 years ago, they couldn't really put a step wrong. They had a very good pool of talent. They were over as hell. They had like very strong factions with a lot of belief and fan power. And the matches were off the chain. And it just, this is kind of, it's kind of rocked them a little bit. And, if Ibushi chooses not to return, then it could get all sorts of messy.
Where would Ibushi go next? That's the question, I think. If he doesn't return, it's like, where do we see him? I would love to see him go to America, but I don't think he'll leave.
Part of me wants to hope that New Japan can kind of keep him on a contract and go, but you don't have to work here, and send him to AEW.
That would be cool.
Because they've got that working relationship. I think let's move forward with it. But moving over to the NXT side of the fence, relating to the NXT UK news that broke with the company replacing it with NXT Europe, it's been shuttered. There's all sorts of things going on. We've already talked about that in the earlier news video today. But there's talk, apparently, this is from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, that NXT Level Up was going to replace NXT UK on BT Sports to fulfill WWE's BT Sports obligations.
So anyone that tuned in every single week to NXT UK on BT Sports, you've now got NXT Level Up, supposedly, which that'll please, I don't know how many people, but I
think, it's one of those things with a contract, they do have an obligation to fill it. I would rather we had a talk show.
Really, like a classic sort of
like a classic studio talk show. But that's just me.
What was that? I remember watching them on Sky Sports when I was younger, or like Sky.
Tuesday Night Titans is always the boy, but like when you go back through it, there's just loads. There's loads
they do quite a lot of those talk shows though. Yeah, but that's NXT. You Level Up replacing NXT UK.
We're talking about NXT though, and one of the kind of the mainstays of NXT, the biggest names that NXT has there. What's going on, Fraser?
So Johnny Gargano took to Twitter to share a scene from Spider-Man 2, as in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, in which Peter Parker is Doc Ock's in that one, asked why people don't see Spider-Man in the paper anymore. A child asks him where he is. He replies he quit. He wanted to try other things, which is kind of what Johnny Gargano did. The child asks if we will ever see him come back, and he replies, I don't know. Aunt May then goes on to tell Peter that everybody needs a hero, and in the film, it's this speech that inspires Peter Parker to return to being Spider-Man. Could this be Johnny Gargano in a very weird but also very on the nose way of going, I'm a superhero, you are the child? Because Aunt May is all like, he was a young boy and he has no one to believe in anymore. I don't know what that voice was. But Peter's all just like looking all wistful off in the distance, and then he becomes Spider-Man again. Could this be him teasing a return, or is he, simply just sharing a scene from one of the greatest superhero movies?
We know that Johnny Gargano, you can take one look at him at any pay-per-view appearance and you can tell that Johnny Gargano loves some superheroes. He's
a Marvel fan.
He is a very big Marvel fan. But I think that it is one of those things, right, where it's like, because Spider-Man 2 is just straight up one of the best superhero movies of all time. If you've not seen it, what are you doing? Get onto wherever streaming platform it's on. Finish this first, but get over there. But it feels like this is knowing what we know about sort of his tastes in film and his gear and everything. This could be it, but I want to see Gargano back under Triple H. I was terrified for him under Vince. But I know that Triple H knows what to do with Johnny.
Give him that main run and let him be the Spider-Man of the main roster. That is what I am all for. That'll be good.
But then we're just kind of going to go back to a couple of smaller stories here to end things with more WWE news regarding SummerSlam next year. WrestleVotes took to Twitter to post that their source states that WWE was apparently beyond thrilled with how Nashville turned out as the host city for SummerSlam a few weeks back. The city is on the shortlist to host the event again next year, and the decision's apparently expected in early 2023. They're no strangers to doing that, though. They had they had a stint in LA, didn't they, where they just kind of did SummerSlam there for a while. There was one in New York,
Center, and then they went to the Barclays Center, so it was like 5 years apiece. For 10 years, it was just in two locations.
Which
It was a nice stadium for Nashville. Yeah. I would not object to them returning there, and I would love to maybe go one day.
Yeah, I'd like to see Nashville. Yeah, it'd be pretty nice.
Pretty cool.
But we're going to finish things off with the news that WWE are apparently looking at signing a Mexican talent. Now, this one comes from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, and it just says, regarding reports of WWE being interested in this star, and while nobody has specifically told the name to them, we're told that WWE is earmarking the idea for a Mexican and Japanese wrestler with a good size, once again looking for somebody that they can promote all the way to the top. The idea has always been there for both sort of slots on the roster, I guess, and they've still never found anyone who can be the next generation Ray, or geared for that important market, like when they tried with Alberto. And I think, you know, it is very much, lucha is such a rich tradition, and it has such a rich history in Mexico that I feel WWE are always going to have a bit of a difficult time getting into that market with CMLL already there, with AAA already there, and with everything else kind of going on. And the indie scene in Mexico is off the charts. Yeah. There's just so much going on there. But it's an important market that they do need a star. And, you know, it's horrible to think about, but Ray's not getting any younger.
He's not, is
We've got Dominic there.
Yeah, that's the next Rey Mysterio.
I think they might want somebody who's like an established name, maybe from that world.
I mean, they tried it with Sin Cara and it did not go well, but that is a whole... That was 10 years ago. I'm surprised they've not tried it.
I remember Triple H was apparently really, really high on Roosh. Like, he wanted Roosh for a while, but it just never sort of materialized.
I guess we'll maybe see things. It's interesting to note on the Japanese wrestler side of things as well. We spoke to Takeshita the other week, and he has definitively said he's not interested in WWE right now, and he's not going to be the Japanese wrestler that they're interested in. But that is everything, isn't it, Sam? Is there anything else you want to
plug? No, we've got a load of stuff coming up this weekend, including a tier list. There's going to be more stuff going out later today, so just keep an eye on the channel. And yeah, that's it for your second slice. We might be back in a bit if anything drastic happens. If not, have a lovely weekend. We'll catch you next time.
Go watch Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, go watch Spider-Man 2. Dr. Octopus, man. Oh.